Improving access to sexual assault support services on college campuses. My goal is to educate you that colleges must do more to support survivors of sexual assault by improving access to resources, counseling, and by fixing reporting systems. Universities and colleges have a very specific responsibility and role to provide accessible, trauma-informed support services for their survivors of sexual assault, and they must invest in better health care, transparent reporting options, and proper staff training to ensure student safety and healing. Can you imagine being in a situation of surviving a traumatic assault, only to be met with silence, confusion, and blame once you finally gain the courage to ask for help? Unfortunately, many college students, this is the harsh reality for them. I want to share the urgent need to improve how colleges support survivors of sexual assault by making mental health care and reporting services more accessible and more effective. Even if you haven't experienced this yourself, 1 in 4 female undergraduates and 1 in 14 male undergraduates experience sexual violence after enrolling in their college or university. This topic is extremely important and extremely personal to me, and I'm just now ready to share. I am a survivor of sexual assault, and when I needed help on my former college campus, I did not receive the help and support that I deserved. That experience opened my eyes to how broken that these systems are, and this is why I care so deeply about making sure that no one else is left alone to sit in that pain like I was. As someone who has had to navigate the aftermath largely on my own, I have developed a deep commitment to advocating for survivors and pushing for stronger accountability on campuses. My experience continues to shape the way that I see the world, and it motivates me to ensure that no one else is left alone to sit like that. First, I will explain the barriers that students face when attempting to access support. Then, I will share the harmful effects of those gaps. And last, I will propose specific actions that colleges can take in order to fix this devastating problem. Let's begin by looking at what stands in the way of survivors getting help. Survivors often face major barriers to accessing help. Some students don't know where or how to report it. The service is unclear and it's extremely confusing. Students are told to report it, but like I said, it's just not that simple. While schools encourage students to report incidents of assault, the reality is far more complicated. They may be unsure of who to trust. They could have a fear of retaliation, victim blaming, and disbelief. Survivors may fear being harassed or targeted after coming forward on their assault. In cases involving higher ups on campuses like athletes, fraternities, sororities, campus leaders, even teachers, survivors feel powerless to speak up. They feel that they have no chance against them, and this is why they don't. One survivor, Noelle Shear, shared her story for the Whitman Wire, explaining what it was like to be silenced after being raped by a fraternity member on her campus. She wrote, "I was a part of Greek life for 2 years. In March of my sophomore year, I was raped by a fraternity member. Since I was raped, my voice had been repeatedly shut down. Every time I felt ready to speak up, I would get shut down. I was raped off campus. Therefore, thanks to former Secretary of Education Betsy DeVoe, I am unable to file a Title IX report against my assaulter. I have been afraid to speak up because it has been, and will always be, my word against his." And unfortunately, in many cases, this is the case. If you don't have solid proof, evidence, time frames, anything of that sort, it's going to be 50-50, he said, she said. And there has to be something that we do about this. Marginalized students will often face added-on discrimination or lack of culturally competent care. Many culturally diverse students, especially those from Southeast Asia and China, feel that campus sexual violence prevention efforts do not address their needs because the policies and education lack cultural awareness that are not accessible to them. However, these barriers don't only make it more difficult for survivors to speak up. They also lead to long-term consequences that affect their education, safety, and mental health. The barriers have lasting consequences. Untreated trauma can lead to things like PTSD, long-term anxiety, depression, and academic fallback, which could ultimately lead to the dropping out of the student. For me, that was the case. Survivors often suffer from anxiety, depression, PTSD, and even suicidal thoughts. This is upsetting to hear, and symptoms can simply worsen over time if not treated or given proper attention like it needs. According to the Cleveland Clinic, an estimated 94% of women experience symptoms of PTSD 2 weeks following sexual trauma. Students are more inclined to drop out or feel unsafe on their campus. They're likely to skip class, avoid campus as a whole, and neglect their schoolwork. A study from the University of Oregon found that survivors of sexual assault are more likely to drop out of college, opposed to non-survivors. These students may feel isolated, which makes it very difficult to stay focused on schoolwork and complete assignments by the deadlines. Lack of accountability allows the perpetrators to simply go unpunished. This increases the risk for others and allows them to just get away with it. Knowing this not only re-traumatizes the survivors, but also leaves the other students endangered, or anyone endangered for that fact. Research suggests that some perpetrators commit multiple assaults. Silence contributes to cycles of harm. The system remains broken because no one feels safe enough to report it. This is what brings in underreporting, making colleges not feel the pressure to make a change for their students, leaving room for more assaults. To address the harmful effects, colleges must close the gaps by improving services, rebuilding report systems, and ensuring that their staff is properly trained. Colleges must take appropriate action to fix these gaps. They must increase funding for mental health centers. More resources essentially means more shorter time waits and better immediate support for counseling. They must hire more trauma-informed counselors, which is essential because these counselors are trained in this. They are trained in trauma. They have a better understanding of providing sensitivity in their care for these survivors. They know exactly what to do, what to say, and who to report. They should provide a confidential 24/7 hotline. Survivors need an always available space to reach out. Schools should include anonymous reporting options to protect the students' privacy. Excuse me. It must be a requirement for all staff to be trained in handling disclosures with care. All staff should know how to respond supportively to survivors, knowing the next steps to take. Colleges should ensure Title IX offices are student-centered and completely transparent. Survivors should walk out feeling empowered, and they should feel informed throughout the reporting process with Title IX. They deserve clear communication, absolutely no hidden procedures. It's extremely hard to go to Title IX in the first place, so they shouldn't be confused. Title IX should update survivors on their cases and leave no room to wonder what happens next. To conclude, I want to remind you why this issue matters so much. It's not just about statistics or numbers or facts. It's about real people, real students, people like me who have been harmed and left without help, left to face it on their own. We've talked about the obstacles that survivors faced when trying to support themselves on college campuses, such as long wait times in counseling, confusing procedures for Title IX, and the fear of disbelief by other college students. We also explored how the lack of adequate support can cause long-lasting emotional distress and poor mental health, which can affect academic success, leading to the student dropping out. And finally, we discussed the necessary steps that colleges must take in order to prevent issues and better support. There's an urgent need for colleges to improve how they support their student survivors of sexual assault by providing accessible and effective mental health care and transparent reporting services. Ultimately, no student should face this alone or be forced to face this alone. We must hold schools accountable, not only for how they choose to prevent the assaults, but for how they care for those who survive it. I charge you to speak up if you hear something. Ask questions and demand a change, because if we don't fight for survivors, who will?